Hi everyone, my name is Hiromi Narita. I'm the study abroad advisor at Kirkwood Community College. Thank you so much for visiting our YouTube episode. Today we have a guest, Morgan. She works for Kirkwood Community College as a staff. I invited her today because she actually did study abroad as alumni and also grew up with a Native American background. I've been learning so much about her community and her background throughout my time at Kirkwood. And so I wanted you to also learn from her and from her community today. So Morgan, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Morgan Bear. I am from the Meskwaki Settlement, which is in Tama, Iowa, which is about an hour away from here. I grew up there all my life. I went to the Meskwaki High School, which is our school and an all Native American school. And so I went there from about off and on until about third grade. And then finally at third grade, I just kind of committed to going there just because all of my other siblings went there. And so, kind of default, I just was like, okay, I think I want to go there too. And so, I was there all the way until I graduated high school. Then, after high school, I came here and I did my 2 year degree here. And then after that, I went over to University of Northern Iowa where I majored in social work. Then right from there, I went and got my master's from Iowa State University in post-secondary student affairs. And so then after that, the same week that I graduated, I started here and I started working for TRIO Student Support Services as a TRIO program advisor, which I was also a student here in TRIO, as well as at UNI. And so, yeah, I've been here about a little over maybe like 2.5 years now.
Awesome. Thank you. For some audiences who don't know about Trio, can you explain about Trio?
Yeah, so TRIO is a federally funded program. We serve first gen, low income, and students with disabilities. And so, with that, we pretty much just follow them throughout their entire time here at Kirkwood and kind of guide them. A lot of them with being first gen or low income, they might come into Kirkwood maybe not knowing certain things, maybe like financial aid, what is Pell Grant. We pretty much help our students with everything. We help them transfer, we help them apply for scholarships, pretty much setting them up for success, not just through higher ed, but as well as after college. And then there's also other TRIO programs. So TRIO is just kind of like the head, and then under that is we have student support services, which is my program, and we work for college students. But then we have talent search and upward bound, and they work through within like K through 12 or within the schools, and it just pretty much depends on what schools they're assigned. I know we have some programs here. We also have EOC, Educational Opportunity Center or Council. We they work with helping getting students like into college, whether it's filling out an application, financial aid, things like that.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. It's really extensive program. And
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned you were part of a trio
Yeah.
when you're a student. Wow. How did that your background of growing up in the Meskwaki community impacted your career choice? Like I'm wondering if um like you had some kind of like journey toward like understanding your identity and branding yourself in this Kirkwood community. Yeah, I would like to know more about that.
Yeah, so I really never had like plans to go to college.
Mm.
And I think it was exactly like my identity that kind of led me to higher ed and as well as like going into higher ed because I went to the Meskwaki High School. They really didn't shield anything from us within like our history. So, we learned about, there was a lot of things we learned that I realized that a lot of schools in Iowa are all over, they don't learn. I had met people that they didn't really ever touch on slavery. They didn't know who Emmett Till was. Which Emmett Till was a big part of, civil rights. And so, as well as, the boarding schools, that was a big thing for me. And it's like, growing up, we had heard about the Indian boarding schools, but it's like we knew they existed, but we never really, dove into it. And so within my senior year, our whole thing was over Native studies, and we just she show our history. Her name's Leah Slick. She's our Native Studies teacher, and she's been there. And she's also a community member from the settlement too. And so that was really cool to have her teach us. But she just opened it up, all of it to us. And learning about the boarding schools really impacted me just because, like, I realized that that was a huge part of our history. I mean, we lost, that was when the Removal Act went in place. A lot of kids were taken away from their families. A lot of kids died in the boarding schools. There was things that we learned in there that I couldn't even believe. They would send kids to class if they had tuberculosis. A lot of them, their families never knew what happened to them. And that was like really impactful for me. And it was honestly very hard for me. Even now, like sometimes when I'm watching a show and if they touch on like, if it's like over Native Americans, like a show, like I watch Reservation Dogs, which is a big show right now on Hulu, and they touched on the boarding schools. But even then, it's a little hard for me to watch just because it's, those were kids, and, there was basically the goal was to, kill the Indian and save the man, which, basically colonize them. And so through that, I remember just thinking, like, I need to go to college. I need to go do something with myself because I can't not do anything with myself and have all of that be for nothing. And it's like, and now I have the opportunity to go and get an education, and I'm not being forced to basically like dismantle who I am or like where I come from. And so that really impacted me. And that's why I decided, I also didn't really have good grades because I knew I didn't want to go to college. And so my only choice was community college. And I was actually denied to UNI and Iowa State. So I thought it was kind of funny that I ended up going later, which was a nice turnaround for me.
Right.
But once I came here and I joined Trio, it was really nice just because my mom was a single mom. And so she couldn't really help me with a lot. She could give me like emotional support, but financially and like physically, I couldn't really reach out to her or ask her. And I didn't put that on her either because I didn't want to make her feel bad for not knowing like what to do. And so I remember I was in one of my writing classes, and Trio came and talked to us, and I just heard first gen low income, and then I filled out an application after that. But I did have like, academically, I really liked it here and I felt really prepared to go on to a 4 year. But again, like within my identity, I didn't realize that when I went to college that not everybody knew about Native Americans. And so when I came here, I had some really weird experiences with other students, with professors. Like, I had students who said problematic things, professors that said problematic things. And I had thought, like, maybe that was just here. But then I went to UNI and I had experienced the exact same thing.
Wow.
And I think that's where I realized that it doesn't really matter where you go, that not everybody learned. And I can't, at this point in time, it's like people still don't know that we exist and that our settlement has been there, forever. And so just that kind of impacted me. I got really involved when I went to UNI, as well as like within Trio. Trio also has like a state chapter. And so like within there, I got involved. And so there was a lot of opportunities. They took me to conferences. They took me, to like the Capitol. Every year there's a Iowa Trio Day at the Capitol. And so a lot of things like that. And so leadership opportunities, which I think after UNI, that's kind of where I decided I want to go into higher ed. And at first it was, I want to help students that are like me. But I think as I've gotten, almost 3 years into like the professional world, I'm slowly just kind of filtering back to like, I kind of want to have my own college ready program one day. And so I'm actually going back to school in the summer for my doctorate.
Wow.
And so I'm really excited just because I love higher ed, but, there's a lot of things that, I would like to do to be able to make space for Indigenous students.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I have so much respect for you and everything that you've gone through. and changing those struggles to your kind of like a mission, like you really want to change situations for the future generation. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I have so many questions. I really want to know more actually about the community you grew up in. Like, it sounded like you had options for education, choosing which education you go. And even the other day, you organized Indigenous Peoples Day. That was really awesome. It was my first time to get to see Indigenous people dancing in their own way. It was so beautiful. So, please tell us more about the culture. Yeah.
Yeah, so the settlement is the only federally funded tribe within Iowa. A long time ago, I think it was like the 1800s or something, we bought our land back from the government. And
Oh.
so the way that that went was, a lot of like the rations or, whatever that they were getting at that time from the government, they just saved all their money and bought it back.
Mm.
Um, which we're very fortunate enough to do because today, a lot of tribes, it's probably a ridiculous amount of money to buy their land back. And so we bought our land
Yeah.
back, and through there, I usually tell people how I explain it is so we're located in Tama, and it's basically like two towns split into,
Okay.
two towns. That's one town split into two. And so you have kind of like, the predominantly white area, you have your Fairway, your Hardee's, your Mexican restaurants, all of that. But then you kind of go kind of towards Marshalltown or like Des Moines, and that's where you'll kind of start getting into maybe not even like 2 minutes outside of the Tama area. Is our settlement, and you
Mm.
kind of start to see where like it gets hilly, it's there's more greenery. And so yeah, pretty much, I mean, I think we build on a lot. Sometimes I think a couple times a year there'll be, we add more land that we purchase back. And so we have our own houses. We build them all within our tribe. We get no money from the government. And so that's kind of a misconception that I've always kind of dealt with too, is that people think we get money from the government. But
Oh.
actually we have our casino, and that alone just brings in revenue that goes right back into our tribe. And then from
Mm.
there, we've been able to build on. We have a truck stop, we have our clinic, we have our high school, we have like a summer youth program. Actually, last week, for like the first time ever, our new rec center opened. We got like a grant like a
Wow.
long time ago, and they finally like it's a beautiful thing. Like it honestly made me want to cry. It made me want to like almost move home because we didn't grow up having a
Mm.
Y close to us, somewhere that we could go and like, go to a gym like that. We had one little gym, and it had, linoleum floors, and people were always, battling with getting, open gyms and stuff like that. And
Mm.
so like we have something new like every year. And so yeah, pretty much like our settlement is like consisted of, Meskwaki people, and we're, slowly building on with a lot of things. They have like the public school in
Mm-hmm.
Tama, and then they have our school. And so you don't have to be Meskwaki to go there, but you
Okay.
do have to be um, Native American, and you do have to
Oh.
have like certification, a certain blood quantum, to be able to
Mm.
go there.
Wow.
And so we do have like, sometimes people will marry people from other tribes, and maybe they have kids or something, and they come and move on the settlement with their partner,
Yeah.
and so their kids can attend our school. They really don't open it up to the public. It probably never will. And so within
Mm.
there, so when I came to Kirkwood, I was really afraid that I was gonna have to take like language classes, but
Okay.
actually we have our own language class like every day. It was called our culture class, and so like
Mm.
with their all the way from when we were little, my sister was actually in the first immersion class from three
Mm.
years old. And so we learn, our alphabet, our shapes, our animals, everything, and that builds all the way up. And so I had the 4 years of the language, but it was our language. So I didn't have to
Wow.
do that when I came here, which was great, but I do wish I could have learned another language. But um, so
Mm.
yeah, and then every year we have our powwow, our annual powwow, which I know the Study Abroad office has actually taken students there. And so I've utilized my community a lot as I've been in higher ed and as I've been a college student. Something that has, ever since I went to college, I've just, wherever I go, like that's going to come with me. And, it's always a mission of mine, no matter like, if I have to introduce myself, I always say like I'm from the Meskwaki Settlement in Tama, Iowa. And, like I have to I always have to make sure that I touch on that or I bring that with me and somehow integrate it into like what I'm doing because it's a huge piece of who I am. And, there's a lot of things that I think I would love to have out there, but also to me, there's no excuse for anyone who's from Iowa. If you're from Iowa and you don't know about the settlement, to me, that's ignorance because, it's if you're from a different state, I can give you a pass. But, we've been here forever. And, we're the only federally recognized tribe. And, but the thing I've also realized that in college, I'd be kind of annoyed about it and probably would have went off on someone. But, now it's people don't know because they weren't taught that.
Yeah.
They weren't
right.
in K through 12, they didn't teach everything. And sometimes there is people that do teach about it. My best friend's a teacher in the Iowa City School District. And so she's been able to like kind of integrate that stuff in there. And so
That's awesome.
yeah, so I'm really proud of my culture with the Indigenous Peoples Day that, I was asked to help with leading the, with that day. And then from there, I've built on and we're going to have our Native American heritage. I've collaborated with my Meskwaki Annual Powwow Association back home, and they've been helping me plan this big event that's open to Kirkwood, the school districts, Iowa City, college students, not even just from here or from Iowa to UNI. I'm utilizing the Native American student group at UNI because they have a lot of students from home too. And they're also going to be like working the event. And so it's open to the Cedar Rapids community. And so I'm really excited because Cedar Rapids or even Kirkwood has never ever had anything like this. And so, but it's been really nice to see like the support and, how interested people are.
Wow, thank you for sharing. I feel like throughout this interview, I learned so much too. So I really appreciate you for sharing it. Just to conclude, like I want to learn more about the ways in which we can learn about you, about your identity, about Meskwaki community, or about Native Americans as a whole. Like, what can we learn, or what are the tools to learn more about you so that we can live together harmoniously?
I think, I think probably I've been asked that question a lot lately. And I think the most I can say is that immerse yourself into it. If you see an event going on, because in Iowa City, they have a lot of events. They have like a truth giving here in November. I don't know what day it is, but, they have that tomorrow actually. And at the film scene in Iowa City, the movie theater, they always have Native American movies showing, which I really appreciate. They have this movie tomorrow showing and it's called Smoke Signals. And that's like, to us, it's like a funny, like, it's a movie. It's a very popular Native American movie. And then, right now they also have Killers of the Flower Moon out, which that touches on the Osage tribe. And then they had another movie a while back, and that's where I was kind of like, oh, you don't really see things like this. But that movie theater is a nonprofit organization that brings awareness to the Iowa City community. And so I would say, just like, if you see something and you're interested, go to it. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to go and just learn. But I think also, like, if that's the first time you're learning or you hear something that maybe is new to you, do your research and, educate yourself on that. But I think that's kind of what I'm hoping that comes about from this event next week, is that sometimes I think we have to go into their space and educate them, because it could be intimidating to go into someone else's space in another cultural setting. And so I'm hoping that from there, this kind of helps people learn, as well as dig a little deeper. We're always open to having people learn about us. And it's not just, go to our casino. We also have a museum. We have our own natural resources. We have, our truck stop. We have we also have like Meskwaki Inc., which they have a lot of, we have our own cigarettes. And so they make that there, as well as like
Wow.
other things. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things there.
Awesome. I'll definitely visit. Thank you so much for sharing, and really appreciate for coming today to be interviewed and sharing everything with the audience.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So this concludes our episode. Thank you so much for checking. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you.
Bye.